From the 1750s to 1950s, we enter the industrial age, industrial revolution. Something happens. Something happened. This is the first time in history that people who were born poor could be rich. First time in history. People who were born poor with no land, but they created something that made them rich. In the industrial age, machines equals wealth.
Machines do more and more of the hard work these days.
Thousands of years in the industrial age, and now we're transitioning to industrial age. All the farmers who were peasants, farmers, they have a little shack to live in, right? That's how it works. The industry, the industrial tycoons, and they say to the farmers, hey, instead of working every day, 7 days a week, 14, 15, 16 hours every day, come work in my factory. You only work 5 days a week, only 9 to 5. You can take the weekends off.
You and Eth will go to Palm Springs. Have a good time.
You mean it?
More than that, if you do that, you come, don't work in the farms, come work in my factory. By the time you get to 65, I will take care of you. Now, think about it. If you were a farmer, working all your life under the sun, 7 days a week, someone comes along and make you this offer, what would you say? You say, sign me up. Let's do it. Sign me up. And then your life is about to change forever. And back then, Rockefeller, Carnegie, Henry Ford, J.P. Morgan, they became the richest people in the world because they created machines to make mass production possible. And what happens is this. In the first time in history, a new class of people was born. That's the middle class. For the first time in history, now people have extra time. They have extra income. Because before, working every day, nothing to do. Now they've got weekends. And they've got to do something with that extra time or extra income. So maybe they'll go away a little bit, take a little vacation. So now, not two classes. You have what? The poor, you have the middle class, and then you have the rich. Another thing that was born, a new revolutionary concept was born, and that is called retirement. Retirement was born out of the industrial age. I'm going to work at this job, 9 to 5, for 40 years. If it's good, then I'm going to retire. That's the concept from the industrial age. And what happens is this. You go home and you talk to your family. So imagine Joe working in the factory, right? One day the manager comes to Joe and says, hey, Joe, you are doing a very good job in the factory. Doing things, you're productive. Here's what we're going to do. The manager tells Joe, why don't I send you back to school, get some education. If you do that, you come back, I'm going to give you a raise. Joe's like, yeah, of course. If you were Joe, working in a factory, manager comes and say, get some couple years education. I'm going to give you a pay raise. So you don't need to work in a factory anymore. You're going to, instead of working in a factory, you're going to manage the people who work in the factory. So Joe comes home, sitting down with the kids. Hey, kids, you know, the boss comes to me today, and he said if I go to school for a couple years, and then I go back there, I don't need to work in the dirty factory anymore. I'm going to get a raise. We're going to make more money. And Joe tells all the kids, kids, if you don't want to work in the factory like I did, what do you need to do? You got to go to school.
All the children are quiet while they
You
read.
got to get good grades. So you don't need to work in a factory like your dad did.
These boys are slagging.
And the kid's like, okay, Dad, I get it. I'll make sure I go to school. I'll get good grades. It's working. He's now managing the people who works the machines. A couple years later, the manager goes to Joe, hey, Joe, you're doing such a phenomenal job. Tell you what, why don't you go back to school for 2 more years? Get an MBA. Then you don't even need to manage the people who manage the machine. You'll manage the people who manage the people who manage the machine. And I'm gonna pay you double what you're making right now. Joe is like, what is he gonna say? Sign me up! Went back to school for 2 more years. Graduate. Now I have that piece of paper. Now, Joe's making twice as much. Managing the people who manage the people who manage his machine. And Joe goes back and sits down with the kids at dinner table again. Kids, holy you know what? Don't just go to school for 4 years. Go to school for 6 years. You don't even need to manage the people who manage the machine. You can skip that. Just go right up to middle management. You can skip all of that. Does that sound familiar? That's where the concept was born. From the industrial age. At the time, the key to success in the industrial age was traditional education. If you don't have a good job, you won't succeed. And a really good job is you're running the people who are running the people who are running machines. That's a very good job. You work 40 years, 5 days a week, retire, they take care of you. Does that work for most people anymore? Most people struggle financially. Write it down. Because they're trying to create wealth with an idea that was created from the industrial age. From the 1950s. We're in the 21st century. Your family is feeding you idea. They're giving you the formula for success from 1950s. And you wonder why they struggle. And they think, if one job is not enough, if the formula doesn't work, what do? I get if that is not enough, I get a third job. Not only they don't get ahead, they get behind. They get left behind.